For Your Love is a love song wrapped in poetry built on poetic images of gold, roses and the keys to the kingdom, because that's just how love feels sometimes. We cut the song with the band live in the room, no tricks, just trying to get the good groove. It's romantic, always feels lovely to sing. It's the sorrows doing what we do best. Why am I reading that out when I can in fact just say, is that really what you said, Joe Camilleri?
It is probably, I must have said it.
Well, it says so. It's on a bit of paper. I found it on the internet. It's got to be true.
Joe Camilleri, lovely to hear your voice again and have you back on the show. And it's wonderful that you are still involved in this industry that has served you, but also us so well.
Oh, thank you. It has served me well. You know, like I was an accidental musician, really. Fell into it, music fan, blah, blah, blah. And one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I'm writing songs, and then I'm going over, playing around Australia and playing around the world, and then falling over like a cheap suit and having another grow. And here we are, 62 years down the line, and I'm still enjoying it. And I was singing along with that. I was just cleaning up. And I'm thinking, you're singing your own song, you idiot.
Well, you've probably never heard it before either, because every time you do an interview at the moment, everybody's playing it, presumably. And this is not by any way, shape or form to denigrate anything you've done before, but that's a mighty good song. It's probably one of your best, I would have thought, ever.
Oh, I do like it. I think it's a good song. I think it's I do a lot of negative songs, because I'm scared of dying. So I might as well sort of get involved in that world. But to some degree, we sort of mind that field a little bit, and disappointment. But when we also write beautiful love songs, and I think that's one of the better ones.
That meshes in with what I was going to ask you, Joe. The fear of dying is something that most that get at the back end start to think about. You lose maybe people close to you and you stare down your own mortality. But for someone who is creative, how have you managed dealing with that too? One, you want to live, magic, create, all that sort of stuff that drives you and has kept you going all these years. But then you sort of touched on the fact that there's a bit of fear now in your work.
Well, it's not fear so much, I mean, sort of, you've been, this is how it rolls. This is what life's all about. I think when you're running out of time, and I could live for another 20 years, but not in the same way as I'm living now. And I'm not living now the way I was living 20 years ago. So it all kind of changes. And so your thought processes change. And your priorities change. I still love doing what I'm doing on all levels, and I'm enjoying that. I'm finding enjoyment in writing songs that aren't about death now, or even though that's only one of many subjects that we would have written about. A lot of it sometimes has to do with mortality, but it's inevitable. So we're dealing with the best songs we can write at that time. It's all about the time. If you pick up an idea, you've got to run with it.
Yeah, we interviewed a bloke, a young up-and-coming musician a couple of weeks ago. His name's Russell Morris. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work. Yeah, and he's just written a song which is, again, one of his best ever in my mind. It's called End of the Beginning. And his mindset is, I'm not touring anymore because it's becoming a bit of a grind. But that's not the end of the world. It's the end of the beginning. What happens next? And I think that's a really good outlook that he's taken with it. And it's a really good song as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. You have, it's different priorities. When you're 20, and blood's running through your veins like a river, you can take on a different kind of concept. You think there's no end.
Joe, you have sort of produced lots of different styles of music. One might say, observing that you continue to reinvent yourself. Maybe it's just for your own entertainment. What is it with your musical life? Have you looked in the mirror and said, I'm sick of doing that now, I'm going to do something else? Or is it been a case of, to survive in the industry, you keep having to review who you are?
I think, when I was 40, I might have thought that way. I have no interest in thinking about anything like that. I just have interest in the art of of what it is today. And the biggest advice I can give anybody that kind of wants to be in the business of show business is don't look down, because just keep going forward. And the music is going to change. You're not going to change if you start working, trying to outgrow what's in front of you and try to be ahead of it. You'll never be. You're always going to be behind it. Just be who you are. And all the styles that I have is as I said earlier, I was a musician. I wasn't a musician. I was a music fan, and I had a wide net, and I liked everything. I liked everything that was good. I think, and I didn't sort of narrow it down when I was in a band. I just kind of figured that was all available to the band that I was in.
One of the questions I like to ask people who are in the creative sense, whether it's a musician or someone who's an artist of the visual arts variety or whatever, at some stage or another you picked up a guitar or a saxophone or whatever the first instrument you were. At what point did you go, you know what, I can actually do this as a job as well, where I can take my passion into a job rather than just being someone who picks up a guitar on a Saturday afternoon when they've got nothing else to do? What was the trigger?
Yeah. Well, there wasn't one really. It was accidental. It wasn't. I didn't think I could do anything. I just kind of joined a band in 1964, 63. All I could do was sing, play the harmonica a tiny bit, and act like a fool. I did that very well, and that's what happened for 10 years. All of a sudden, I'm in a band. And they're good. They're better than me. I was the orange boy. And it just kind of grew from there. I was in a band that they didn't think I could speak English. I could only sing in English. It was kind of bizarre. It was kind of weird. My first rehearsal with Adley Smith Blues Band, I think, half the band thought I couldn't speak English. And I could sing Muddy Water songs.
Touch of the ABBAs about them. None of them could speak English, but they made the right noises to make it sound like they were singing English.
So it's kind of a bizarro thing. One thing always leads to something else. If you can find a pathway, the musicians that took me on in the King Bees were far better than me. They knew how to play. They were learning on the job. And all of a sudden, we had a gig. You sort of enjoy that, and you enjoy because it's something to do, and it's something to do collectively, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, we might be able to do something. And then you say, well, we can't do anything because we haven't got any songs. And then that band breaks up, and then you get another opportunity. And then it wasn't until really the Polacco brothers that I realised that maybe I can do this caper. And, from 1963 to 1971, that's a lot of gigs and a lot of disappointment and a lot of wagon wheels and quite a few malted milks, I was still just kind of interested in the art form. I was interested in the design of it all, if I can use that word, fashion, design, all the things that went with it. I wasn't looking at saying, I could take this somewhere. I wasn't being led like that. And I guess my musical choices were different to what was on the radio anyway. When the Falcons started, we weren't fashionable, but we were popular. But it wasn't what was going on. Even the Sorrows, when Sorrows started, no one really got that music, because we were playing Zydeco music, even though it was basically R&B, really, pop Zydeco music, but it wasn't being exploited in any way in this country. And so we just left alone doing our own thing, and all of a sudden we became really successful overnight.
So had music not come and knocking on your front door, what would we be talking to Joe about? What sort of role would he have played in life? Was he going to be an accountant or?
Probably behind bars.
What, serving drinks, you mean?
You're a mischievous lad, were you, Joe?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to be. I was I'm a jolly guy, I even to this day, I wake up sort of with something might happen today. Something good might happen today.
And the best you got so far today is this talking to these two clowns in Geelong. It can only go up from here.
I'm having fun. Look, I've been practicing for an hour and a half.
I love it.
Playing the saxophone, trying to get my neighbours to leave me half a dozen eggs. I think I'm on the wrong tune.
Joe, I wanted to explore the songwriting because you're an interesting character, having delved into so many genres. Jim Steinman had 10 hits with the one tune, and your music's gone all over the shop. When you start to write a song, is that an advantage for you or a disadvantage, that you might get 3 or 4 notes in a row in your head and you get excited and you start to think, well, where do I go? Which direction do I go? Because I've been in so many directions. Is it a gift or a cross to wear?
It's certainly not a gift. I think what I do, what I learned is, first of all, the reason I play guitar is because I wanted to write songs, and I realised I can't write songs on the saxophone. So that was kind of like a very important moment for me, and so I started doing that. And the concept for me was it'll go so far. I'll get to a point. Sometimes I've got just the start of a song, 3, 4 notes, as you say, a couple of lines. Can't do anything. I leave it alone, and I'll start. Something else comes up that has nothing to do with that particular idea. I'll work on that idea. So sometimes we would, and that's how me and Nick work, we normally have 4 or 5 songs running at the same time. And we've been doing that since 1984, 5, I think it's when we started as a writing team together. And we've never, ever just worked on one song. Because you need an intro for this one, you need a verse for that one, you need a chorus for that, you need that one spare parts, but we'll never use it as spare parts, but we'll say that that's spare parts. And then there's the deadline blues, and then there are that drive you to finishing it. So it's the joy to be sort of in a mindset where you're free and things are just flowing, and you're in that space, and then there's a roadblock. So you can't push that. The more you push it, the harder it is. The harder it is, the less you want to do it. The less you want to do it, the deadline is getting closer. And so if you start working on something else, it opens up that whole world again, and then something might filter through. That's how we work. I don't know how anyone else works, but when I talk to Nick about stuff, he says, well, I've got a bit for this, I've got something for that, we've got to let that one fly. And then I will push hard on the things that I think we shouldn't let fly.
Yeah.
Let me rewrite this. Let me see if I can rewrite this idea. The idea is good, but we're just stepping in number 2. We can just give it some time. Let it just kind of percolate a little.
It's fascinating for us on the outside. I've said this before here. There's got to be an end to the combination of musical notes at some stage, and there's thousands of people all around the world doing what you're doing in that space.
Yeah.
And even the writing, even the words, the storylines, the themes, the emotions that you guys put into music as well. You'd think eventually you're going to run out of ideas, but you've been doing it for a long time, and you're still very fertile on the mind. It's an extraordinary industry you're in.
Well, it is, and it's depleted on many different levels. But I think it'll never end. I used to think about how jazz players play, and I'm saying, how do they do that? How do they make the combination? You only have to change one note, and everything changes, in a way, from a solo perspective, or you change a pattern using the same combination of notes. It's not about the notes so much. It's about how you apply them. And because I keep singing, oh my God, it's another love song, or it's another breakup, or it's another thing. How do I do it? How do I make it sort of interesting? Well, it's everybody's life. There's billions of people on the planet. Everyone's got a story to tell. And I think it works that way. It's not about, it's the way how you put the things together, not about because I used to think like that, there's only 8 chords, there's only 4 different, but it's more than that. It's about the personality of the idea, so you have to dig deep into the personality. The songs that I'm writing, I've written quite a few songs on my own at the moment, and we're doing songs together, but and he writes songs on his own, and then we get together and we kind of pull things together. But my lyrics are really different to the lyrics that he writes, and I found a new way into something that brings me joy, and it seems to there is joy in the songs themselves. I think it's because of where I am and who I am right now, and I'm not scared of that anymore.
Well, Joe, you are about to metaphorically jump in the car for the next couple of months and get around Australia to do 2 things. One is to play some dates, which we're going to talk about shortly, but also to promote an album that's come out called The Quintessential Black Sorrows. And unlike the famous Spiral Staircase, who managed to put a 2 CD album out called The Essential Spiral Staircase, you do have enough to make a double album. Tell us about the album and what we can expect if we go out and buy that. I think the 24th of October it's out.
Yeah, comes out on 24th. Everyone can pre-order, please do. Look, it's got all the famous songs, which obviously if you want a greatest hits record, but during it's 40 years in the making. So there are songs that I like that I think are valuable to be connected to the songs that people, because the landscape has changed. When we were having our big hits, the way people looked at music was differently. The way they bought music was differently, and now it's kind of moved into another dimension again. And I thought, well, if I'm going to curate it, I'm going to put things that I think are valuable from the point of view as a songwriter, a troubadour, I guess if you want to call me that, the joy of having these hits, the songs that kind of that are equally as good, if not better, from a song structure, and kind of in a way is kind of like a shaking of a hand and getting to know each other again.
Yeah. Well, part of my job on this, Joe, is I get to choose the songs that we play each week, and I've chosen a Black Sorrow song to play after we say goodbye to you. Unless you turn the radio on, you won't know what it is. It's not a song that you've written. In fact, it's a cover version that came out in 1984. I think it sits in the top 5 cover versions of songs that I've heard. It's a song called Brown Eyed Girl. It is an absolute ripper, taken off the Sonola album, if I'm not wrong.
The very first album, yeah.
Yeah, and to me it was almost the birth of the Black Sorrow, so I see it's an important song.
Well, it was. First, it was, and it was, we made that record because the band was joyous in 6 hours. We made that, the record that we played was the music that we had, plus about 5 other songs to do a show, and we used to play all those songs. And that was the first song we recorded, and I think it was a 2-taker, all in. We weren't even allowed to go and listen to it. We had to ask the engineer. He said, "That'll do." And it was, because I got the idea. Oh, I didn't have the idea. They were putting in, AAV were putting in a new console. It was I think a Harrison desk and a Sony digital, one of those very, very first digital 32-track machines. They needed a guinea pig. I used to go there and harass them all the time. I said, "Give me $600, you can have a whole day." That's from 10 till 6. And we made an album between 10 and 6. And that was fun. So the engineer was in charge, Ross Cockle, and he, really good. He's got big ears, and and he said, "That feels good." I said, "It feels a little fast for me." He said, "No, that feels good." I said, "Okay." And we did an overdub. I think the piano accordion player and the violin might have played the intro.
Yeah.
It was an overdub, and a couple of other overdubs with them doing little things, and that was it. We all had a mic in front of us, and you just jumped on and sang when you were, playing and singing. It's, which is kind of what we should be doing.
It just sounds like a fun version of a great song. So we'll play that in a minute.
Great. Now can I just finish it?
Sure.
I didn't know the song.
Oh, okay.
Know the song. The song lyrics. I mean, Wayne Burt brought the song to me, and he said, "We should do this." And we played it about 5 times before we started the session. I got the idea of the song. I'm reading it. I'm reading off the back of the lyric sheet. I could see better then. The back of the cover. It was on a Big Bang album. And Van didn't even have a really big hit with that when it came out.
Mm.
So and it felt really good. It felt that I gave it enough, kept it in its original format,
Yeah, and I think the thing is that, to me, it's a song that everyone just sings along with. And so to me, it was an ideal choice for mine.
It was an incredible choice. And, I made 500 copies, selling them out of the boot of my car. If it wasn't... Here's the thing. I think the Sorrows would have had a harder task. We had a hard task anyway. We made 4 albums before we got the Hold On To Me record, and the Dear Children record was the start of what was going to be. But that if it wasn't for Hey Hey It's Saturday, if it wasn't for Darryl meeting me in the street and saying, "Give me a copy of that," because we had a conversation. "Give me a copy." And he paid me for it because I said, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm selling. I've got this band called the Black Sorrows. I'm just selling stuff out of the back seat of my car." He says, "Go and get one." Go and get one, and I said, "Well, here." He says, "No, here's $10. I think, it's what we were selling them for or something." Comes on, and he says, a week later, he says, "I want you on TV."
Wow.
So.
Well, I've got my vinyl version at home, so I bought another one of them. Let's talk about some dates because we've got to get going to talk to some other people. You are literally all over Australia between now and the end of February. Some key dates across Victoria that we need to talk about because we've got people listening elsewhere. The Wedge in Sale, 21st of November. The Melbourne Recital Centre in Melbourne, 22nd of November. You're visiting a town called Geelong. You're playing at the Playhouse on the 23rd of November.
Yeah.
Where else in Victoria? You're coming back to Victoria. Coming back, you know what I mean. You'll be playing in Victoria in February at Ringwood East, but down in Colac on the 7th of February. So if you missed the Geelong show on the 23rd of November, the 7th of February at Copac in Colac, it should be an absolute cracker. You can buy the album on pre-order now through the usual places. Joe, I don't know as much else that we need to say.
No, well, I just appreciate you've made my day.
Wow, you need to get out more.
Have you ever been on Rockwiz? You would have had to have been, Joe, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been on Rockwiz a few times. Made it. You know what's the best thing they say? What was your first gig? And then I got so sick of saying, I saw the Rolling Stones. I'd say, I saw Ray Charles in 1927.
One of our regulars, Steve from Bramburgh, has come through with, "Joe must be disappointed in the size of a wagon wheel these days and the price gone from 5 cents to 8-pack for $6.
I know, and we're back on job. We're back on the job.
Joe Camilleri, you are now officially a friend of the Blokes, and we are so proud to have you as part of the family. Thanks for that. All the very best with the tour. Don't forget you're playing in Mareeba tomorrow night. Don't let that slip past. And we will look forward to seeing you in Geelong in November.
Stay well, gentlemen.
Good on you,
Thanks,
Joe.
mate.
All the very best.
Joe Camilleri, Australian music legend.